Hi, it's great to get together with the peers. I've already, and from our breakout, learned another organization that I'm anxious to connect with and work with. Um, so, by definition, we're all working with non-traditional populations. This isn't the come on, kids, throw the boogie boards in the van crowd. We all need to do special outreach and targeting populations. I know you've all got your own challenges, or you wouldn't be here dealing with them in concert with the Coastal Conservancy and the ETC program. And I know from previous discussions and overall communication, this is a very conscious group, and you've all put together beautifully constructed programs. And we all hear about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This agenda is the first time I've seen DEIA, and that's really great. Accessibility is really becoming an established thing. It's very easy to overlook a level of programming and including those with physical and cognitive disabilities. Let me give a brief overview of our program. Well, as was said, we're a nonprofit in Santa Cruz. We were founded in 1992. We've built up our day on the beach from literally a disabled person had a buddy who was a surfer, said, you got to try this. It's going to really change your life. And it did. The next year, he got a bunch of surfers and a bunch of his buddies and went surfing. So actually, Day on the Beach started as a surfing activity. Over the years, we've grown. We've got the outrigger community involved. We've got the kayak community. We've got a local scuba shop involved. So now we have 200 to 300 individuals a day for our event. And make the event more than just, here's your chance to jump in the ocean. It's to have an experience at the beach. We've got bands and lunch and other activities such as drum circles and sandcastle building. One component we've added at Day on the Beach this year is to invite different marine organizations to have informational tables to add some science to deepen the ocean experience for our participants. We've had tables from partners such as Ocean Alliance and the Museum of Natural History. And we coordinate an open house for participants at the Monterey Bay Sanctuary Exploration Center. One other significant part of Day on the Beach is the beach party. Every year, there's a significant number of disabled people who say, I've never been to the beach before, and I'm certainly not going out in a small boat on the water, but I want to check this out. And that's understandable. And we welcome those folks to come on down, join us for lunch, listen to music, and watch their peers having ocean adventures. And every year I hear people say, I'm seeing people in worse condition than me going out and having an adventure they never thought they would have. Next year, I'm doing that. It is obviously touching to see individuals take ownership of their beach and their ocean and have experiences that are the right of every California resident. Back to beach access. This is a huge issue for any disabled individuals trying to get on the beach and into the ocean. Getting wheelchair riders and other mobility impaired individuals to the beach is a challenge at every beach. Our first unofficial and informal effort was to line up pallets on the beach. After a few years, we advanced to building hundreds of 4x8 plywood flats into a platform on the beach. However, as wonderful as dozens of carpenters and truckloads of wood sounds, it's not the greatest scenario. It's a lot of work for one day of activities, no matter how great and successful the activity is. I'm sure beach access is a major issue for all of you in terms of incorporating disabled participants. Well, there is some good news. There are some modestly priced products available for cross-sand beach mobility, and several coastal cities have acquired and installed such equipment. We are hopeful that we'll be seeing more beaches with beach mats up and down the coast of California until it becomes a standard coastal amenity. Hopefully, your city, county, or state beach is jumping on this bandwagon. We are hoping Coastal Conservancy can take leadership in this process. Another accessibility device you may be acquainted with are the beach wheelchairs with balloon tires that can go across the sand and even into the ocean. Again, hopefully every coastal city, county, and state beach has a beach chair available. Beach chairs are a great amenity, which literally makes the beach accessible to a surprising number of people. My point here, it is not necessarily your organization's responsibility to acquire one of the accessibility methods I just mentioned. But if you want to be able to serve participants with disabilities and integrate such individuals into your program, you need to put pressure on your local beach jurisdiction to be sure such amenities are available. There may be interim steps, renting or borrowing beach chairs or mats from another area or organization. But ultimately, we need beach chairs and mats to be standard equipment at all beaches. But I don't want to leave the message that it's up to them to address inclusion of the disabled population in ETC programs. I know every one of you has your hands full managing the program you have developed and received funding for. However, it is up to you to ensure that the disabled population is included in your program, from outreach and recruitment to time on the beach and in the ocean. There may be some new issues for you to deal with. How to get an individual across the sand, how to do an appropriate transfer from a wheelchair to a kayak. And actually, this is not a rhetorical exercise. I understand the question in the ETC application about what is your plan to include the disabled population in your program is not a ranking question, it is a qualification question. That means if there's not an adequate answer, it is not that you lose ranking points, it is that your application is considered not qualified. So I guess you can consider this sort of a heads up. Plan to take disability inclusion totally seriously. I want to make one more point. Organizationally, get the politicians involved, your local city council, county supervisors, or state legislators. We invite a politician to give a welcome to our event each year. They all want to be associated with such a positive program. And it turned out our county supervisor who spoke this year is the Central California representative on the Coastal Commission. He has shared our story with the commission and is keeping the issue of beach accessibility for disabled patrons on the agenda. Last year, we had the mayor speak. She subsequently directed the city Parks and Rec Department to waive city permit fees for our event. And be sure to invite the press. They love to cover feel-good stories in their community. I'm definitely not claiming to be an expert in physical therapy or ADA rights or many other relevant issues in accommodating the disabled population. But if I can be of any help to you, sharing my experience, recommending resources, or listening to your situation, please feel free to contact me for an unofficial, informal discussion. Thanks for listening to my story. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. That was great and very kind to offer out your support outside of this forum as well. I hope people take you up on that. So our next topic, presenters will be speaking on building intentional and sustainable collaborations. And first up, we have a presentation from the representative of Justice Outside. Justice Outside is dedicated to advancing racial justice and equity in the outdoor and environmental movement. Their mission involves shifting resources to, building power with, and centering the voices and leadership of Black, Indigenous, and people of color because the health of current and future generations demands it. They have long worked to remove the barriers that have historically prevented communities of color from accessing meaningful experiences in nature and professional opportunities in the outdoor sector. Their grant-making program project, Liberated Paths Exploring the California Coast, will re-grant Conservancy's funds to 4 to 5 community partners, supporting a minimum of 2,000 BIPOC participants to enjoy coastal locations across the state, fostering joy and healing. This program enables the redistribution of resources, collaboration and building influence, and centering the voices and leadership of Black, Indigenous, and communities of color. Presenting today is Efrain Chavez Delgado, Justice Outside's grant-making and program manager for the Pacific Northwest and California Coast. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the generous introduction. Again, my name is Efrain Chavez Delgado. I use he, him pronouns, and I've been with the team for about 3 years. And hey, Andrea, I was about to message you too. But yes, happy to be here. I won't have a presentation. I'm in the middle of moving, y'all. I'm going to be in Southern California in a week, so I did not have time to put a slide deck. So I'm going to do my best not to bore you with just some quick tips, 5-minute run through on how Justice Outside looks to build intentional and sustainable collaborations. And so, as mentioned in our introduction, we're an intermediary grant maker who takes large gifts from bigger foundations and other organizations. We do our best to then redistribute those to Black, Indigenous, and people of color who have historically been excluded from access to philanthropic dollars and outdoor experiences. Something that really underpins that unfortunate environment or circumstance for communities of color is the lack of trust and relationship building across racial lines when it comes to this field of work. And so when we look to build intentional and sustainable collaborations, we lean heavily into trust and relationships. That means we do more than just the work. You know, we do our best to spend time with people, get to know them. In many cases, when you're building a collaboration or a group of folks, you're bringing people who are in the same line of work, but personally, you likely don't spend too much time with them. And I think naturally it becomes really difficult to have that trust. Add the additional layer of race and a lot of other identities, and it becomes even more and more complicated and complex. So that's definitely something we do a lot of, whether it's in anticipation of a recruitment cycle. We'll hit up people we might want to invite to apply months in advance. We don't have the invite-only approach because that is very, very limiting in the way that philanthropic institutions can facilitate and redistribute their funds. In addition to having a lot of programming, networking programming throughout, as opposed to just cutting a check and bouncing. We build in intentional networking opportunities in our grant making, and it's a practice we use outside of there as well, because networking has proven to be a point of they're really important. Relationships gets you to open doors, gets you to money, gets you to people. And so investing time to be able to build those relationships is super, super key. After that, really, I think it's a matter of making your list of potential partners, and there's a few criteria I would recommend that you all kind of keep an eye on. It's of course who has been at the margins of the given topic. If the collaborative that you're bringing together is hoping to address inequities, historical ones, then inviting the same old people into the room is not going to do anything likely. It's really going to be important for you to get voices, communities, organizations who have been at the margins and haven't been able to participate or have their voice centered in whatever given topic or issue is being addressed. With that, you also want to do your due diligence and do a decent amount of research on the reputation of the partners you're bringing into the fold. Reputation in terms of how courageous their work is, how willing to bend are they, perhaps how much capacity do they have. There's real life unfortunate restraints when it comes to teams and initiatives capacity. And so having a decent mix of people who maybe are a little bigger, a little smaller, medium size, people who maybe don't have kids and can work through the night if you have like community organizing aspects to this collaborative, but having a good mix and an understanding of the potential participants in your collaborative. Once you kind of have that group of people brought together, you really want to spend time building out the strategy with the partners. It can be really prescriptive, really paternalistic to convene a group of people, especially those who have been at the margins, and then tell them what we're going to do or tell them what the strategy is going to be. It's really short-sighted on the convener's behalf as well, because it's quite impossible that we possess all perspectives needed to strategically attack or combat whatever issues at hand. And then I'd say kind of like the last piece, which is the hardest piece, I'm going to say, is the actual launching, management, and evaluation of said collaborative. These things are tough because you don't really know how long they're going to run for. If you're issue specific, maybe it's you're passing a policy memorandum of some sort with the city government. It's a nice clean cut, but in many cases, it's ongoing, and you're going to have to really assess as you go along alongside other partners to evaluate if it makes any sense to keep going. But I'll take a few steps back. The launching portion, we have found, and maybe this is an experience many of you all have experienced as well or gone through, is bringing groups of people together. Everybody has so many things going on. Everybody has an inbox that's overfilled, things going on in their personal life. And so it's really difficult to have one or build in a collaborative energy right off the bat. And so I have found the convener, the main convener, who maybe has a little more capacity, to be okay with taking a prominent management and coordination role of said collaborative in the beginning, while slowly building in avenues for participation and accountability, and ideally rotating roles of facilitation, organizing, and the like. It will 100% burn out the organization or the individual maintaining the collaborative. And so if a long-term longevity or sustainability is something that is desired, having a rotating cycle of organizers, facilitators, note takers, who's sending out the calendar invite, etc., will be super, super key. And I think I'm gonna pause there. Yeah, and see if there's any questions. I did not time myself, so hopefully I hit the 5-minute mark, and if not, my apologies, y'all. I think the last thing I'll share is that Justice Outside has realized that it's difficult to know everything. And so one thing we do a lot is look for experts in the field. We have worked, and I'm going to do a shameless plug of an organization we've worked with in the past, strategies groups, a really amazing woman who's provided capacity building to our own grantees who all participate, lead, or are interested in building partnerships, alliances, collaboratives. And so we look to them. But thanks so much, Morgan, for the heads up. And I'm going to put it in the chat in case folks want to look up that really amazing woman with the Onyx Strategies group. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ephraim. Yeah, definitely put that in the chat. And if people have questions, go ahead and hold on to them, because we have one more excellent presenter coming up. That will be the North Coast Resource Conservation and Development Council. North Coast Resource Conservation and Development Council, now known as Conservation Works, encourages the sustainability of rural communities and advances the preservation of natural and agricultural resources within Marin, Sonoma, Mendocino, and Lake counties. By providing environmental education and promoting community and youth action, Conservation Works aims to bring change in water conservation, climate change, pollinator protection, and healthy, sustainable communities in the rural North Coast. The Exploring Coastal Pomo Nation Lands project provides participants from the Middletown Rancheria of Pomo Indians with two-night camping trips on their ancestral land in McCarricker State Park. Youth and their families explore the dunes, fen, beach, and rocky coastline. Participants fish, tide pool, gather edible kelp, pull invasive beach grass, and reed fish baskets and dream catchers. Please join me in welcoming Una Heacock, Executive Director of Conservation Works, and our second speaker on the topic of building intentional and sustainable collaborations.
Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate, and I'm honored to be a grantee speaker to share my experience building intentional and sustainable collaborative partners with everyone here. So, I have 5 minutes, so I'll try to share, how we were able to build this really great, enduring relationship with the tribal communities out in Central California and Lake County. We are Sonoma, Marin, Lake, and Mendocino counties, and a lot of our tribal communities are out in Lake counties. So you can advance the slide. So how we developed our project partners, when we have grant funding, as a nonprofit, we are grassroots. We are hoping to meet the needs of the communities. So we got to get to know the communities. Partnering with the tribal communities within Lake County, in particular, to be able to establish partnerships, we practice cultural humility. That's just a respect and an attitude where you challenge your own cultural biases and realize that you can't know everything about a community, and you just have to be open and realize that it's a lifelong goal and process. And it really helps when you approach anything in life like that, working with a community, to be humble and open and know that you're always learning. So that's been all the staff and all of our boards' attitude. And I think that's helped us to create trusting relationships. So when we first go into a community that we're hoping to provide some of our services to work with them to, first we want to make sure that we go in the right way. Like Efren was talking about the networking and how key that is. So when we're thinking about, you know, working in a certain area, we'll connect with people who might know people, right? And then they introduce us, and then we get to know them, and we know that that's going to take some time. And so we're strategic and planning about how we introduce ourselves and communicate to others who we are. And obviously, you know, when you want to go in and work with somebody together on something to achieve shared goals. So approaching the Middletown Rancheria of Pomo, California, which is the community who we worked with out along the coast, with our grant we received. We've been working with them since 2019, and we started with a little pollinator project that we did because their community was really doing a whole lot of pollinator restoration. And we had plants and we had things that we thought we could share to that. And we went in very delicately, getting approval from the tribal chair people, and worked that way. And so as you see, for us, I know it's different for every program, but we want to have long-term engagement and be a trusted community partner to collaborate on shared goals. Okay, the next slide. You want to advance the slide? Great. So how did we work with the community on this project? Well, we wanted to make sure that it was easy and affordable to participate. That was first and foremost, just make it easy, right? Everyone's so busy, and we want it to be something that works with the real life that people are experiencing. So getting out to the coast for this community, it's about 2.5 hours, and it's really hilly and it's expensive. And barriers to the coast from this community are just that there's a lot of everyone's working parents, and putting together a big camping trip like that, where you have to pack up a kitchen and pack up food and all of that, and then the affordability of gas to go over the mountain, it's expensive. So through the grant from the Coastal Conservancy, we were able to make that happen. Utilizing online forms, providing individualized support, and flexibility. Flexibility is super important. We found it always is. So when we have a lot of discretion in what we do, so that we make adjustments to work with have our program work for everybody. Okay, move it forward. You want to be really transparent on who you are when you're going into a community that you're just starting to go to network and get to know. So make sure, you know, we took some videos of ourselves. You know, people knew us, you know, but they didn't know all of my staff. They knew me, they knew all my staff, my participants. So they wanted to know everybody who might be involved in this project. So we introduced ourselves, we shared why we were doing this project, and we kept everyone in the loop. We're very open to listening, taking account of what everybody said. Our project was a collaborative project, so our activities along the coast were really created around with the tribal community that we worked with. So everything was collaborative and decision making. That just, you know, that humility really played a big part in making this so successful. And of course, you need to be adaptable. We had, as you can see, we had babies, we had grandparents, we had people we had quite a few people who were experiencing disabilities. And so we made sure we accommodated and gave activities for everybody to enjoy the experience and make it comfortable. The next slide. This quote just kind of made me feel so happy, because I felt like the work that we did building this collaborative, this sustainable partnership. But in the end of one of our camping trips, I felt like we achieved this shared goal that we all had together. This was a quote: "Coming to the coast was great because it was bonding. Yes, it's rekindled bonds that have been lost for a while." You know, I mean, I feel like we haven't had an event like this since I was little. This coast has always been a gathering place. Like you said, they found so many things of artifacts over on the coastline there. And this grandmother pointed to the pier. You can kind of see out in the picture there. And this is one of our gathering places. So I felt like not only were the communities able to create a coastal experience, because we were really intentional in how we created this project and partnership, but it really added such a richness to their experience of the coast. They're going to want to do this every year, I'm sure. So sorry, I went a little over.
Thank you three for speaking, and to you all for listening. We're now going to have a 5-minute break, and after the break, we'll have a panel discussion with the three presenters who just spoke.